My name's Sam Cheney. I am a Senior Application Engineer here with Geomagic, and we are back with another Inspection Insights episode. Today's going to be a bit different compared to what we've done recently. Normally, the format is we take a specific example of a part that's been manufactured, and then we look into that industry segment and talk about how to build inspection reports or do analysis of those kinds of parts, whether they be consumer products, sheet metal, castings, so on and so forth. We're going to cover all sorts of different inspection types or industries, but today we're focusing more on the tool-based application. And we're going to be doing this really aimed at anybody who's working in a production environment. So where you have multiple of the same parts coming off the line and you need to inspect, every 1, every 10, every 50, whatever your, cadence of inspection is, it really doesn't matter. But as long as you have more than, one inspection, these automation tools are really going to help you out. And that is what we're going to be covering. We're going to be covering the different automation tools inside Control X. And this is just a start. We could get into scripting and all sorts of other stuff later down the line, but I really wanted to highlight the batch processing tool, which is my favorite way of inspecting multiple scans at once. So you'll, just take all of your scans, save them somewhere, you'll make your report. And again, for today's episode, we're not going to go over how to build a report and create dimensions and so on and so forth. We've covered that already. I'm going to be using just a pre-baked inspection report that I've already made. With that, we then start the batch process tool, drag and drop our scan datas into that, tell it what we want it to export, a PDF, an XML, or CSV, whatever you'd like, and then hit go, and it's just going to do it all for us. Now, after the batch processing tool, it really lends itself well for another tool called the trend report or the trend analysis, and this takes the XMLs from either the batch processing or doing it by hand, doing it with the automation server, however you generate the reports, and then it will compare all of the dimensions from scan 1 to all of the dimensions from scan 2, scan 3, scan 4, so on and so forth, and it will generate a graph for you so you can see how over the whatever, again, cadence of inspection you're doing, every 10, every 50, whatever, how dimensions change. And what is this used for? Well, it's really good for statistical process control. So if you're a quality engineer and you need to figure out the root cause of where issues are happening, you can use this trend report to look at how the tolerances or how dimensions or how inspection points change over time. So you can clearly see if something's trending high or low over time. You can see how fast it is trending, and is it already a problem or is it going to be a problem? And this is really useful for checking the root cause of issues. So if you're doing some stamping and you're inspecting your stamping tooling, right, everything's still within tolerance, suddenly something's out of tolerance. With that trend report, you can actually see it trend upwards to being out of tolerance or downwards, whichever it's wearing out, and then you can schedule preventative, proactive maintenance. So you're going to replace your tool before you get bad parts. The same can be said for, if you don't know the root cause, you can see where spikes happen. I know an example of, we had somebody who's manufacturing a bunch of stuff, and then there's just a random spike, of the parts suddenly are out of tolerance, and then it goes back to normal. We can't figure out why. Doing the trend report, looking at, so-and-so was working that day and then knew they just started on the line. Maybe they don't know all of the things. So you can figure out, this is a problem that's repeating. Maybe let's get that person training. And that's all I'm really going to say on why parts can go bad. At the end of the day, we are just going to be supplying you with the data to make those informed decisions yourself. We don't know your production lines, but we can hopefully tell you a little bit about them. The final thing we're going to cover is the automation server. Now, this is a step above batch processing. So you really don't even have to open up the software as long as you've got that inspection template already created. You open up a server, you again input your scan data into a monitoring folder, and then it will automatically open up the software, run all the reports for you, and save the reports in another folder that you'd like. So here is a typical inspection workflow. This is the workflow we've been covering, for a few weeks now. You start with CAD data, which is going to be called reference data. This can be native from CAD, or it can be a step and IGES, something neutral. We then import or scan data directly into Control X, because we support a bunch of scanners as well. This can be an STL, OBJ, it can even be a point cloud if you'd like it to be. And then the next step is to align the models. Again, we covered this already. Best fit, datum alignments, it all depends on what you personally prefer or what is needed in the situation. Then we go on to 3D comparisons, measurements, just generate the report template. If you don't have it already, and if you do, then just hit refresh and it's going to do it all for you. And then finally, exporting a report. Now, what does it look like for today's episode of the Inspection Insights webinars? Well, this is what an automated inspection looks like. It's a little bit different. It has something at the beginning where we have that automation server monitoring folder that we put the STLs in, and then it will go through all of this start to finish process for us automatically. So we don't have to manually import all of the data besides dragging and dropping it. We don't have to align the models if our alignment's already set up in the template. And then all of this is all automated. Same with the report saving, and it will automatically, once it's done scan 1, it will automatically come back to the starting point and import scan 2, and then run through and do it again and again until you have all of the inspection reports created. Now, last slide before I get into the fun stuff. This is our review of the different plans inside Geomagic Control X. We have plans for everyone at any price point. So we have the Essentials, which is very bare bones, but you can still generate reports, do inspection stuff, and there is some automated inspection elements to it as well. With Essentials Connect, it is very similar to Essentials. It has, almost identical in terms of the tools, but you now also get the direct scanning plugins and the support for portable metrology devices. So think like arms and other, probing and things like that. If you need that plus more, we also have Professional, which is, the most popular one. This not only has everything that Essentials and Essentials Connect includes, but it also has multiple result inspections and then some of the more advanced tools like surface defect, airfoil analysis, and it also supports native CAD formats. So instead of just importing step files, you can also import solid parts or other CAD native formats. So here we are inside Control X. We have a completely blank workspace here. So what I'm going to do first is come into, not import, we want to file open, and I'm going to open up my completed inspection report. This is a really good file that we use for training. It's going to ask me if I'd like to rebuild it. Since nothing's been inspected for the first time, I'm going to hit yes, and it's going to refresh all of these alignments, all of these different inspection elements that we've created. And there we go. So now we've fully inspected this part. You can see we've got lots of different 3D comparison points. We've got a 3D compare to see the color map. I could turn the mesh off so it's a little bit less noisy. And then I could also come in and turn off other groups as well, should I want to. Now, if I have multiple of these scans that I'd like to inspect, I could come in and go to my home tool, replace measured data, grab my next mesh, hit import and hit refresh, then generate a report. But we don't need to do that. We have too many tools available to us to make this way more efficient. So what I'm going to come to do is I'm going to come to my report automation toolbar. You can see here we have batch process. Now you can reach it either here, or you can go to Menu, Tools, Report Tools, and we can come to, is it Tools? No, this is where you get to the trend report. To get to the batch process, where are we? Is it going to be an automation script? Okay, well, it's always here. So, and if you can't find it, feel free to come to the Help tab, Index, and you can always type in batch. And there we go. We get the help for the batch process. If we double click on it, we can open it up, and there we go. We've got all of the help article for the batch process. Now I don't need this to be here, so I'm going to come to Home, Toolbar, and we would like to hide the help. And we'll just reset layout. There we go. That's always nice as well if you accidentally close one of these and you want to bring it back. Just reset layout, and it brings everything back to how its standard should look. Okay, so come to my automation tool, batch process, and then here what we're going to do, this is the batch process window. It's going to ask you to add files, so I'm going to add my files. I'm just going to select my prismatic 1 through 5. It's going to ask, there's a few import options. Again, I leave everything. If you have bad or sketchy data, you can always say fix erroneous data. It'll run the healing wizard. Realign to existing measured data. Again, that's fine. If we wanted to import it as points only, we could select import custom options, or if we're it's in the wrong default units, we could do that too. It's also going to ask us what output option we want. Now, I don't really need it to save the model file. That would save a separate instance of this document with each version of the scan data in it. That's just going to take up space. I don't personally need it, but if you do, feel free to check that option. And then it's going to ask us how we want to export our report. Now, I definitely need the XML. You need this if you're going to do trend reports, but maybe I want a PDF as well. So I'll say export both of these, and then it's going to ask us where we want to save it. Now, I'm just going to double check that this is somewhere logical. Yep, looks good. And then once we've got all of this, we run through. If I hit this check mark, okay, it's now going to start the automation inspection. Getting ahead of myself. It's going to start the batch process. So you can see here it's bringing in the prismatic 01, which obviously we already refreshed this, but we didn't actually generate a report, so it's going to do that for us. And then if I navigate over to my batch process folder and just quickly clean everything up for you so you don't see all of the mess. Come over here. You can see we've got a prismatic 1 PDF and a prismatic 1 XML file. So it's saving this into the folder as we speak. And if I minimize this, you can see it's moved on to prismatic 2. Now while we wait for that to load, I'll pull this inspection report up. You can see here we've got our inspection, our measured data, our scan data, the alignments. Oh, and it just opened up the second one. So we're now on 3 of 5. We've got a color map. Again, this is the template that I've already made myself. I kind of already touched on how to do this in other episodes, but if you'd like to learn more, either check out those webinars, check out our YouTube, or reach out to me or somebody on the support team directly. We'd be happy to walk you through it. So this is what the inspection report looks like. You can see we've got lots of different GD&T. We've got more custom views for the color map. And it's a pretty good report. I'm pretty happy with it. Okay, so we've done number 3. Now we're on number 4. And then number 5 will be next. Once we've got all of these reports saved in this folder, we are going to come to our trend report. Okay, we're on our last one. Looks like we are almost there, and it should leave number 5 up for us to at least look at. And there we go, we're done with number 5. So now we have 5 different inspection reports that we can use to, we can review each of them, or we can actually come into our trend analysis, which is in Tools, Report Tools, Trend Report. This is going to open up a different window. This is the Trend Report editor. And the first thing it's going to want us to do is import the source reports. And these are the XML files that we just created earlier. So highlight all of those, hit open. It takes a little second for it to open, and then it will actually display all of the reports in one long report for us to review. So it looks like it's imported all of them. Come to our trend report, and if we hit generate, oops, there's the source reports, hit generate, oops, fat fingered the mouse again. So excuse the Octane branding, I missed a setting in my my settings to update it to the new Control X branding. Again, if you wanted to adjust that, I haven't done an inspection insights on templates, but I might have to add that to the list. But again, feel free to let me or somebody else on the team know what you'd like to see on one of these inspection insights. We're happy to have the feedback. Okay, so we've got our trend report now. I'm going to scroll down so you can see it's got all of the reference data and then all of the 5 measured datas, all of the initial alignments. There's a little bit to get through. This is the alignments again. And then, okay, now we're into the 3D compare. So this is comparing all of the different spots on the 3D comparison points, comparing to each of them. You can see, 1 through 4 is fine. It looks like, 2 through 5 are fine, but it looks like 1 is a little bit high, at least in comparison 2. Oh, comparison 3 is also a bit high. Let's move on to something that's a little bit more like a dimension. So just scroll down a little bit. Okay, here we go. We've got our linear dimension number 1. And this is what I was talking about earlier, how you've got, inspection report 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you can see how things trend or change over time. So you can see that it started out kind of high. It's still within tolerance, but it is yellow, so it's a warning. So it's close to being out of tolerance or at the top end, and then trends and it kind of levels out. You could also infer that if we go over a little bit more, it's going to trend downwards over time. But again, we also have all of this information, the CPU, CPK, for again all of that statistical process control. And we have this for all of the different dimensions. We've got linear dimensions. Let's see, do we have a radial dimension? Very, very tight tolerance here, and you can see none of them are anywhere near correct. So either we need to adjust the tolerance, or we need to adjust our manufacturing process. This is for all of the different groups. And you can see there, we're pretty close, but again, that tolerance is out of whack. So this is what we can use the trend report for. Really, really useful if you have multiple, if you're doing production, really useful to get this information out of there. And once you can generate it out of generate it as a PDF and a PowerPoint or an Excel document. And you can see it is pretty long, but you can take what you want and leave the rest, delete whatever pages you don't need. So that is trend report and batch process. The next thing we're going to move into is actually we can close Control X if we wanted to, but I'm going to come to my automation server, and what I'm going to do is show you how to set that up. So you will need to set up a folder labeled automation. And then you will need to create the following folders. So you have a communication folder, and this is going to contain the scan data from completed inspections after it's moved from the monitor folder. The monitor folder, this one's important. This one should remain empty, but you're going to be pasting whatever input data you want to inspect. So as you scan parts, you'll drop it in the monitor folder, and that's actually the starting gun for the inspection for the automation server to run. The output will have any reports that you've generated. I've already generated these, so I can just hit delete. And then we have a template. This will obviously contain your inspection report. So the template will contain the template for what part you're doing. And then a sample ID rule, which will basically just point one thing to the other. So once you've got this folder structure, you can then come to your Control X directory. And you can see here we have two. We have Control X Automation Client and Control X Automation Server. I'm going to double click the server. It's going to ask if we're doing it from a single source or multiple sources. So if we have lots of folders, we can use multiple. I've got all of mine in one folder, so I'm going to use single, hit the check mark. You can see here we've got our server. It says it's disconnected. We can start it up here, but first I'm going to go to options. And this is really where you want to take a little bit of time to make sure everything's set up correctly. You want to make sure that this is either set to shared file communication or TCP. Shared file communication works for me because I have it all on my laptop. And then you point it to all of the different folders. So you can see here I've gone to my monitor folder, template, given it the sample ID CSV, communication folder, again, is all in the same location. So it's pretty easy for me to just come in and navigate to it. It's going to ask you how you want it to import. Again, very similar options when you compared to, you see it compared to something like the batch process tool. So yeah, very, very similar. We also have how we want it to export the model. Again, if I want the XML for those trend reports, I do that. I've already done the trend report, so I'm just going to have it export as a PDF. And then I'm going to hit apply. Again, making sure that everything's correct. Then I'm going to start the server. You can see here, my computer is disconnected, but it is ready. Now I come to my client, double click on that. And then the next thing I need to do is check my license. Yep, got an available license. I then connect. And then if I come to my monitor folder, first I'm going to grab my input data, and I'll just do two just to make it run a bit faster. Copy this here. Oops, I need to open that again. Sample ID rule, there we go. And I come to my monitor folder. And if I clear some of this out of the way, I wonder if I move this over here. There we go. And I paste this in there. You can see on the automation server, it's already seen that there's two pieces of scan data that it needs to run. So what it's doing now is it's opening up another instance of Control X in your window, and it's going to run these inspection reports for me automatically. So again, a few different ways to do this automation. You can either do it with the automation server, which is a little bit more dummy proof. You really don't need to know anything about the software as long as it's set up correctly. You just drag and drop STL files into a folder, and it will give you the inspection reports out automatically. If you already know what you're doing with Control X, well, it's pretty easy to run a batch process as well. So kind of 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Really, whatever works for you will matter the most. So again, I'm not really doing anything. This is all the automation server just doing it all for me automatically. So I think that's everything I've got. Now that you can see the automation server running, it's going to do the exact same thing we've done with batch process. So yeah, if you have any other questions, I hope you enjoyed this one. I think it's a bit different from what we've been doing in other ones, a little bit longer as well. But I've had an interesting time, and I think it's a really useful one for anybody who's looking to, save a few mouse clicks, really eke out as much productivity as they can get out of their software. So yeah, if you've got any questions, feel free to reach out to myself or somebody on my team. We'd be happy to help. And if you have any issues doing this yourself, if you're already a user, make sure to reach out to some of our support guys. They're happy to help, wherever's needed. So yeah, thank you. Have a good day, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.